Hi, Todd here from Urban Sound Studio. Today we are taking a look at the Sequential Prophet 5 and 10 and comparing it to the Oberheim OB-X8. Whether you're just interested in learning about these two synthesizers, or you're planning on purchasing one and not sure which direction to go, this video will be of great use to you. As we compare these synths, we're not going to listen to the different presets, and we're not going to talk about things that make them individually unique. For example, the Oberheim has a stereo output, and the Prophet has a single output. The Prophet has the polymod section, which is great for sound design, and the Oberheim has the arpeggiator. To talk about these things would be kind of pointless. Instead, we'll focus on things we can compare. For example, comparing the different oscillators, comparing the envelopes, comparing the different filters. What's the difference in terms of workflow, and what's the difference in terms of feel when sound designing? So let's dive on in and get started. To get your instruments calibrated, make sure that they adjust to the temperature in the room and allow them to warm up. Once you do, hit the tune button. This takes a minute, so let's jump ahead. To start with a basic preset on the Prophet, hold record and hit preset. On the OB-X8, hold manual and hit right. You will hear they sound slightly different. Make sure to turn on full keyboard tracking on the Prophet to open up the filter all the way. The Prophet has an A440 reference, so let's master tune each synth to this. Now we are ready to get started. There's a big difference between the synths in terms of how to mix the oscillators and noise. In the case of the Prophet, 3 knobs determine how much signal is mixed together. 1 for oscillator A, 1 for oscillator B, and 1 for noise. With the OB-X8, you add the oscillators and noise by turning them on and off via the switches in the filter section. If you want to alter the level of these, this can be done by selecting page 2 and using the screen to set the levels. The original OB synths only had an on-off for oscillator 1 and a full and half setting for oscillator 2. Let's turn the frequency knob and listen to the range of oscillator 1 on the OB-X8. If we want to go lower or higher, we need to use the global transpose down or up buttons. I guess you could use these to do some Lewis Cole style effects. On the Prophet, the full range of the oscillators is available via the frequency knobs. Now, let's compare our raw sawtooth waveforms. They are almost identical. Let's take a listen to the pulse waveforms. On the OB-X8, with pulse width at minimum, we get a square wave, and we can thin it out as we increase the value. On the Prophet, a square value is at 12 o'clock, and the knob acts bipolar as it thins out to either side. The Prophet has a dedicated pulse width for each oscillator. The OB-X8 has a single pulse width knob that controls both oscillators at once. However, you can hold the pulse wave button and turn the pulse width knob to affect only oscillator 1 or 2 at a time. On the OB-X8, if we turn off both switches, we get a triangle wave on either oscillator. The Prophet only features a triangle on oscillator B, so let's set that up. Let's set both instruments back to sawtooth. They both allow you to select a sawtooth and pulse at the same time, but listen to the difference. The sound on the OB-X8 thins out. The Prophet gets bigger. You couldn't combine waveforms until the OB-8. On it, Oberheim decided to offset the phase of the square by 50% so that when combined with the saw, it produces only upper harmonics. When adjusting the pulse width, it creates a modulation effect that's unique to the Oberheim sound. In this example, notice you could combine oscillator 2 as a pulse wave to the sawtooth of oscillator 1 to get more of a full saw and pulse sound, just like the Prophet gets. The upper harmonics thinning sound only takes place when turning on both waveforms on the same oscillator. Let's modulate the pulse width. Here's a sine wave. A sawtooth. A reverse sawtooth. And sample and hold. Let's try this on the Prophet with the wheel mod section. Sample and hold is not available on the Prophet, but we can combine the sawtooth and triangle to get some unique modulation. And you could use the Prophet's polymod section to modulate pulse width of oscillator A. Let's set the two oscillators an octave apart on the OB-X8 with sawtooth. We will need to use the transpose to drop it down the octave. On the Prophet, we'll do the same thing, but the frequency knob allows us to reach the lower octave. Let's use the fine-tune knob to detune the saw waveforms. Now let's explore oscillator sync. On the OB-X8, oscillator 2 gets its pitch from oscillator 1. Therefore, the frequency knob on oscillator 2 will have the effect of adjusting the timbre rather than the pitch. Let's modulate this with sample and hold. On the Prophet, oscillator A syncs to the pitch of oscillator B. It's the opposite of the OB-X8. Let's modulate this with the wheel mod section. We could also do this using the polymod section. Let's use the filter envelope as the modulation source. The X mod button, or cross mod, uses a sawtooth from oscillator 2 as the modulation source to modulate pitch and get crazy metallic or ring mod sounding tones from the instrument. You can also set it to use a triangle wave in page 2. Pressing the button a second time allows us to modulate the frequency of oscillator 2 via the filter envelope. Make sure to turn up the filter envelope modulation amount to hear this. And you could select to have cross-mod and filter envelope modulation at the same time. As seen earlier, we can use the polymod section to similarly modulate oscillator A on the Prophet. Let's increase our amp attack and release times on each instrument and listen. Using the vintage knobs, we'll affect our envelopes and tuning on each instrument. The more adjustments you make, the more of a unique character you get from each synth. The Prophet has two different filters available that can reach self-oscillation. OB-X8 has 3 filters available via a switch that never reach self-oscillation. Let's switch to page 2 for 3 additional filter options. Let's modulate our bandpass filter's cutoff frequency. The high resonance combined with the envelope creates unique pitch effects. Let's modulate our notch filter's cutoff frequency. It could create some unique rhythmic effects. Thanks for watching. Do you have a Prophet 5 or 10, or do you have the Oberheim OB-X8? If so, let us know your thoughts in the chat below. And if you are on the fence about buying one or the other, where do you stand now after watching this video? As always, please help support this channel by liking the video and hitting subscribe.